Hello, listeners. Welcome to part 3 of Tales of the Sea, a series of stories told by Welsh fisherman Andy Burgess, who spent all of his working life at sea. Andy's nephew Sam grew up listening to his uncle's stories, and 30 years later asked him if he'd like to record some to share with family and friends. He obliged, and this is what they came up with. Welcome to episode 13, Rescue at Sea. Today, we have 2 stories, one in which Andy describes saving the crew of a stricken vessel who were inches from death, and in the second story, Andy himself was rescued minutes from full-blown hypothermia when his boat upturned and he was stranded in rough seas. We hope you enjoy this one.
Right, new story.
Okay.
Which is, made me think, right. Was on this boat, Eric Svensson, this guy's name was, and I sailed with him for a year or so. He was a nice guy. And actually his son came and stayed with us when we moved here a couple of times. Right, so he called us all up to the wheelhouse. Said, right, we've got a mayday. The ship's sinking. There's a tanker on its way towards them. There's another seinetta on the way towards us. We're the closest. Head straight towards that boat. So we couldn't see it. And it only does like 8 miles an hour or something stupid, not much faster than ever. So we're going, I'm stood next to the skipper, and I said to him, doesn't it go any faster? And he said, yeah, but I only keep that for emergencies. And I said, what do you call this then? Right, so we get there, there's a life raft in the sea with 2 crew members on, chuck them over. We're pumped for action then, absolutely solid, because we knew lives were on the line, right? Threw them aboard, took life raft, shoved that on there, went up to the, it was like this. The arse end was down, the bows were up.
So boat sinking.
Boat sinking big time.
Yeah.
So we grabbed the first guy. He was, he was right down, they were sea level. So our bows are like 8 feet higher, reached down, got his arms, threw him aboard, he sailed over us because we were... The other one just jumped. He could have burst the Olympic record for a high jump. Full astern. I was back. He said, everybody aft. We all went aft. And I was creeping forward. And the mast, as it came up, the mast missed us by about 2 feet. And it sank. Wooden baskets, wooden pound boards, all wood aboard. There was nothing on the surface. Everything got sucked down.
It gets, you hear this phenomenon, or the fact of when a big body goes underneath, it has a vacuum.
Yeah.
So it does happen. So you might jump overboard, but you could still get sucked in with the ship.
Oh, you would?
Right. How far away do you need to be? 15, 20 feet before?
Something like that.
Depending on how big.
But the size,
yeah.
I mean, it's 60 foot long, this thing.
Yeah.
But when it went down like that. The mast, which was sticking out this way, missed our bows by 2 feet. That's how critical time was. If he hadn't slammed it on that
would it have totally,
bit more,
yeah,
they'd all been dead. They'd have been sucked down, and the life raft, which was attached to the boat, that could have been sucked down with the crew as well.
Jesus, yeah.
So that's how critical it was.
With the mast, if it had hit your boat, would it have sunk your boat? Would it have trashed your boat?
No, I don't think so. It might have snapped off. It wouldn't have.
Wouldn't have been convenient.
I wouldn't have thought it would.
What's your closest to death? Now, we haven't spoken about your being on top of your boat when you said about the radio mast. That's probably, would you say that's your closest
Well, no,
brush
not
with death?
really, because there was times when, like when we were gill netting, it was times out. It was a dangerous, but I fucking loved it. The danger and the adventure and everything appealed to me so much. It filled me up with energy and joy and just being at sea.
You said you'd been washed off deck 3 times and washed back on deck. And one
That
of those
was
times. So
twice.
that did your life, and you've been on the on an upturned boat and had to be rescued. And I've said to you, we've spoken about it before, when you
Yeah, but
saw
that was
there
here. That wasn't back then. That was...
Either way, you were out at sea and you didn't see any rescue, and you were on the
All
top
right,
of your boat
okay.
in rough seas. So tell
All
me
right,
about that.
tell anyway. Our lives depended on what I caught. We had a little shop 50 yards off the beach. How that occurred is another story, if you like. But I just put a mast up, right up beyond the eaves of the shop, way up. So wherever I was in the CB would register to whoever was listening.
You
Right?
put an aerial up on top
Aerial.
of it. Yeah.
We'd had reports of I needed to get to sea because to bring my lobsters and crabs in, and we kept getting, over a course of days, gale warning coming soon. Now, I thought, I've got to get out. It said coming soon, but it said that for ages. Now, if a storm was imminent, you wouldn't go, because that means within 2 hours. So coming soon is 5-6 hours. I thought I'll zip out, do the pots, zip back, no problem. Anyway, so I'm going out. I had a plane in hull then with a 20 on the back or 25. Flew out, much like a blatter, if you like, speed-wise, very fast. Flew out, doing the pots as you go. And once I'd rounded the corner of on the garage there, heading towards Seal Bay, sea was lovely.
Yeah.
And I got to Seal Bay. I was lifting my pots up, which were the end of the pots that I had to check. And I saw 3 water spouts. I'd never seen a water spout ever, but I knew what it was. It was like a little pillar of water.
Tornado in the sea. Yeah.
Well, tiny.
Yeah.
But it was going up about 15 feet. And it was an amazing sight. And it was 3 of them skittering around together.
Right.
And I thought, oh, shit, because I knew what caused them. Looked up, saw the clouds going, pew, 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 because I was in the lee of the land. The land was sheltering me from the wind. So there was no wind, because I was tight close to the land, or the cliffs, if you like. And so I headed back. Suddenly wind due south, so it was coming from the mouth of the river straight towards the Drury.
What, against you?
Yeah, against me. And so I thought, shit, because I could see the sea ahead of me when I was still in the lee then. And it was like steam and water. It was all mixed in together. It was like, if you hadn't experienced, you wouldn't believe what it looks like, right? It was, anyway. So I thought, right, got flared bows, what do? Get loads of pots on, stack them on fucking bows. We're going through this. And I thought, I'll take it on the quarter first.
What does that mean at 45 degrees?
Right, so the quarter is like, there's the bows, there's the wind, so you push your bow slightly off, so you can feel the force of the wind, and you know it's going to push it that way. So I wanted to see what effect it had.
Right.
So I put it on the quarter to the wind, and it whipped me around like that. And I thought, fuck. So I called Diane, and although not in line of sight, so the CB shouldn't have worked, but I got a bounce off the clouds, and I said, I'm in big trouble. Can you get the inshore lifeboat to come and assist me? Anyway, and that was it. Blank. Lost.
So you didn't know whether she'd got
No,
it?
I didn't know whether she got it or not. So, piled all these pots on to keep it down. I thought, taking it head on now, thinking we'd work our way through it. And it just went up like that and over on top of me. So I was underneath the boat. So I kicked out from underneath, got on top of the boat. The prop was still going round, but then it stopped after a bit because obviously the engine was underwater.
Yeah.
So I was on top, and I still I hadn't quite reached the outcrop of rocks near the garage. Well, a garage is a cutout of rocks which made it look like a hall or something. We called it the garage. So I thought, I'll tie up the bottoms, took my bottoms off, tied up the legs so it would make a float.
Whilst you're on top of the boat?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So at that point, the wind shifted slightly and blew me away, and I thought, if I jump off now, I'm not going to make it. Because once I passed that point with the southerly wind, I'd be going straight out to sea, okay? Because the land bent in there.
Mm.
So anyway, I untied them, put them back on. I was freezing by that time anyway. And I thought, I had the insurance papers in front of me on the morning for the boat and life and all that. And if I'd have signed them and sent them off,
had you
I'd
not
have been
signed
covered.
them? You didn't sign them?
No. But
so you had to come back and then?
So I thought, I'm going to die, because there was no visibility. There was walls of water coming up, washing over me. And it was a surreal event. If you saw it from a ship, you'd be looking down on it, but it was the same level as me.
Mm.
And I thought, well, I'm going to die. But I accepted it. I knew I was going to die, so I accepted it. I thought, I'm going to last as long as I can, and then I'll die. And then, I don't know, it might be an hour later, out of the storm came the lifeboat from Fishguard.
Diane had got the message.
Got the message, told them, and Frankie George was skipper then, and I can't remember his name, shit. Anyway, they broached to me, and it turned sideways, so they became my lee.
Okay.
So it was calm where I was, hauled me aboard, and they were trying to tow the boat, but it kept paravaning. In other words, because it was upside down, it was diving.
Yeah.
So a couple of the crew got in the water, turned it over, pumped it out. So they towed that and me back towards Fishguard. So we were heading towards the head then, and they said we're going to put the boat in Cumreglis, leave it up on the beach, and they put me in a silver suit which kept my body temperature in me because I was really seriously cold.
Yeah.
So I left the boat there, went in, saw the dock. He said, "You're really too cold. You must get warm to take you home. You've got to get warm." So went home and had a shag, and that warmed me up no end. All right, you can't say it, but
you just ruined it. It's such a beautiful story.
okay. So
Can't you say you went home and had a hot shower?
okay.
Say I went home and had a hot shower.
So I went home, and I had a hot shower, and that warmed me up.
Welcome to episode 14, Wrong Gear. Andy tells us a couple of stories today. The first starts with a party on leave in Scotland and ends with a disheveled Andy getting taken in by a Norwegian crew who show him that fishermen look after their own. The second is a bit more gruesome, and we hear how one crewman lost a leg at sea. Listener discretion is advised. We hope you enjoy them.
A story from Scotland, which I'll tell you now. We were in Bucky, right, which we went to a lot in the winter time, fishing for plaice. But so we were ashore, and we'd heard there was a party going on up in the hills somewhere. So we got loads of beer, went up there. It was a bit of a washout, really. It wasn't much fun. The people who, they weren't fishermen, they were ordinary people. It was a bit boring.
Right.
So, okay, the mate got laid, good for him. The other two crew members, they stayed there.
Is this to do with fishing or to do with getting laid?
You know, it's survival.
Right.
So they stayed there, and I thought, I'm going home. I'm going back to the boat. So it had started snowing a couple of hours before, but I knew which direction I should be going in, so I followed that track, as I thought. And I'd been walking for perhaps an hour. It was complete whiteout with snow, couldn't see anything, but it kept going the same way I had been going. And then I got really tired, probably maybe a hypothermia, like you say. And they did say, if you ever get tired, you should never lay down to rest, because you'd go to sleep and you'd never wake up. Yeah. So I had that in my mind, so I knew that, but I wanted to lay down and go to sleep then. But I kept going. Eventually I saw the lights of the dock, and I went to the dock, and I went to the first ship I could see, went down. It was a Danish ship, and they could see the state I was in, so they warmed me up with loads of hot drinks, made me some food, and then I went back to my ship. Because
so was there,
you always look after your own.
Even amongst other ships, you know, when you said if someone's in trouble, everyone just drops what they're doing and they go and rescue that ship, and the same.
Yeah. Which brings me to another story. I went on a new ship. The skipper said, we've had all of the, you know, I want a completely new crew. So what was I? I don't know if I went as decky cook, decky or mate. I hadn't been mate time and again. You know, I went out on there, come back, landed, but during that time the skipper had said that one of their crew from the last trip lost his leg. He got caught in the rope that was being hauled in. And on a hauler you get 3 gears. There's first gear and third gear. In between first and third there's neutral and second gear. So when you go in first gear, when you start hauling, you put it in first gear, and everything comes in really slowly because it has to. As the gear gets smaller, you push it into second gear, which knocks it out of first. Wait a minute, no, it's first gear, and then you push it into second gear, which is a separate lever, and that takes it out of first and it goes into neutral, the other gear lever. So you haul in faster then. And then when you come to the last bit, you put it into third gear by shoving it from neutral into third, and the second gear comes out gear. Anyway, so this guy had got his leg caught in a knot or something, and he was being dragged towards the winch. So now the sensible thing would be to go over to the belt which controls the winch and stop it. But one of the crew members who was near the winch, he panicked. So he pushed it out of first gear into neutral, but accidentally pushed it into third.
Aye.
So it ripped his leg off, all up here. So he
Out at sea.
Out at sea.
Having a leg ripped off. Wow.
So
And
they,
he lived.
They put a tourniquet on his leg and took him in. I don't know how long it took it in, but he couldn't be put anywhere. He was laid on the fisherroom hatch, covered with blankets, tourniquet around his leg to stop all the blood loss from his leg. Anyway, got ashore, went to hospital, and that's what the skipper said. So after 3 or 4 trips, or maybe 5, on this same boat, I was, one crew member would go ashore if it was his turn to go, and the other one or two would stay aboard to supervise the lumpers landing the fish and to drink beer. And normally you'd get a few old lags, they'd come down and sit in your mess deck talking about the time they were at sea, and it was normal that you would look after your guests. So sometimes you get big, say about 20 eggs, and boil them and then put them in a thing so they could have that with some bread while they were talking to each other. Or if you were in where you're fishing for prawns, you'd put a pile of prawns in there and leave them on the table for them to eat. Anyway, this guy, he was down there with an egg, and he cracked it on his leg, and I kind of got it then. He was the guy whose job I took several trips ago. He'd been in hospital, got false leg, and he'd come down and told me his story, which was he went to hospital, got his leg sorted, got a prosthetic leg, and he had a massive payoff from the insurance, which enabled him to buy a half share in a seinetter.
Right.
So his seinetter was at sea somewhere, and he was earning from that. Now, most people...
And sorry, he cracked the egg on his false leg.
Yeah, false leg, yeah. And, so he was happy, really happy. Most people spend half their lives trying to get to the place where he was. He was happy, young, okay, he got half a leg perhaps, happy.
Wow. Half a leg's pretty bad, but...
Yeah, but he was happy with what is...
It's the way you view it, isn't it? If he's happy with it, yeah.
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 And he was.
And a sense of humour about it, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, he's just there, cracked it, and I thought, I know, he was here. So I asked him to tell me his story, which he did.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm telling you.
Must have been pretty bloody horrific, being dragged towards imminent pain, and you're aware.
Yeah.
You can see it happening. It's what it's going to happen in slow motion for you. Oof.
But it was above the knee where he got torn, so he's all its
That's real deal.
Wrapped it with a tourniquet round, which massive blood loss, and he still survived to get to hospital to get it all sorted. Like, it's amazing.
Welcome to episode 15, Phone Home, a short story that shows the softer side of skippers. Andy tells us about when he got a special birthday present whilst out at sea. We hope you enjoy this one.
In my early trawler days, we were on our way to Iceland, and it was winter, so it was about as cold as you can get. And it was my birthday, the 3rd of December. And the skipper said he could patch me through to my dad. So back then you had a radio operator, and that was the total job, was to talk to patch the skipper through to some family member or other ships or whatever. And in this time, we were taking a shortcut which would take us past the Old Man of Hoy, which is a landmark off Scotland somewhere. But it was a place where seven tides met, and it could be easy. The seas would be relatively calm, or it would be extremely dangerous. Anyway, skipper decided to go that way, so we went. So he got the radio operator to patch me through to my dad on a landline back in where he lived. So he just got a call, Dad picked it up. I said, I'm on radio, so when I press the button, I can speak to you, but you can't speak to me until I let the button go. So when I finish saying something, I'll say over, let the button, you can speak to me. So back and forth. Dad never got the hang of the thing, and when I said over, so he'd speak, and then back to me, but he'd carry on speaking. Anyway, it was fun, and it was just one of those things.
Right.
It was unusual.
A lovely touch to be able to talk.
Yeah, but
talk
the
to your
skipper, most of them were hard as nails. He wouldn't let you do anything, and it was his suggestion that I do that. It was
and because it was your birthday.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of.
So I'll
Don't care how big and tough anyone is. There's still a little bit of softness or
18th,
camaraderie.
19th birthday or something like that. It was that long ago.
80 years.
Not
Wow.
80 years.
Welcome to episode 16, Skippers. Andy tells us about 3 of the skippers he worked with and details theirs and those who worked for them's demise. Listener discretion is advised. We hope you enjoy them.
Okay, ready when you are.
Okay. Now then, let me put this. It's on now, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I was on this Icelandic trawler, and we got a new skipper, and he was horrible. He used to shout and scream out the window to everybody, and everybody hated him. I'd heard that he created a big problem in Iceland when he was there last. Something to do with a woman. Anyway, there was something in the sea, and he wanted it pulled aboard. I don't remember what it was. So the mate stood next to the bridge, was getting the short hook, which is actually a long piece of wood with a hook on the end. And it was housed in clips right next to the bridge, straight up the side of the bridge. So I pulled it out, wrenched it down, and it got stuck in the skipper's eye socket as he was leaning out the window screaming orders. The mate felt that it was hung up on something, so he pushed it up and wrenched it down harder, taking out the skipper's eye and breaking his cheekbone. So we took him into Iceland and never saw him again.
Jesus, yeah.
One
So you were on the boat when it happened?
Yeah.
Right. Poor bugger. Even if he was an arsehole, that's pretty savage.
Yeah, but if it wasn't hanging out the bloody window, shouting, screaming at everybody, he'd been fine. He could stood it inside. Hawk would have come down, get it out.
And that was the end of his fishing career then?
It probably lost, I think he lost his eye.
I'm guessing so.
And then we took him. I mean, you can't see the quay in Iceland. It's all ice. But they know where it is, and there's like a tunnel through the ice. So they take him through the tunnel, and then the crew come back. We went to see, and we might have finished. Maybe the mate took the skipper's job and finished the trip. I don't remember. Or we might have gone straight home.
Yeah.
Right. This is about Bunny now. During the life of a skipper at sea on a trawler, he's going to lose men at some point. So this guy called Bunny Newton, oddly enough, was just finishing his career as I started mine. So I never met him. But I had heard stories that if the wire snapped while you were on deck, the warp, it would slice you in half or decapitate you. And they told me stories about this, the other crew, older crew, if you like. And as I've said in previous stories, I've been washed over the side twice. I'm back in again, fortunately. But other people haven't been so lucky. They were washed out, they stayed out. So there was the reckoning. If you got washed over the side, you got 2 minutes before you died of shock. And it was universally accepted. So if Bunny was fishing, a man went over the side, he wouldn't stop fishing, because by the time he knocked out the block, turned, broach, pulled in, he'd be dead anyway. So just carried on.
They just left him.
What?
You just leave a man, and if he falls over.
Yeah. Because you'd be dead.
Right.
You know, if it runs for 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes, it's still good being dead anyway. You couldn't live. It was just ice. It was well below freezing. It wasn't the top of the sea is salt water, and I don't know how many degrees below it's got to be to freeze seawater. And it was thick. The ice was probably about 6 inches thick that we trawled through. Anyway, so I had also heard that Bunny was responsible for the deaths of 26 men over the course of his career. Then he retired and he bought a club called Bunny's Club in Cleethorpes, where all the big stars like Shirley Bassey, Frank Sinatra and all the others used to appear and sing and do their acts. And it was a huge success, visited by lots of skippers from the Grimsby. I never went, but that's it.
Right. Killed 26 men.
Yeah. Or rather, hadn't killed them, but they died on his boat for some reason, probably going over the side. He was known to fish in any weather, but people would go with him because he was so successful. He made a lot of money when he went to sea, and the guys didn't mind risking. Well, I mean, it was risky anyway. People used to die on every boat.
Yeah.
It never hit the news or anything because it was so regular.
Yeah. Is 26 quite unusual? Is that quite a lot for a skipper though?
Yeah. It's got to be a record.
That sounds heavy.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Ebe. Funny name, isn't it?
Right.
We were three-handed sei netting in the North Sea. I like being three-handed, more responsibility, harder work, all things I liked anyway. The mate was called Ebe. Looking at him now, he reminds me of Chris Hemsworth, the actor who plays Thor in the films. Blonde hair, muscular, very handsome. We'd got a big split in the neck, and Ebe said he couldn't mend. So he asked me to do all the mending and then said, I'll look after you when we get ashore. So when we went in, fish room full, we'd had a good trip again, three-handed, it was often the way. So we tied up alongside the quay, and Ebe said, come on, let's go and get something to eat. This is probably between midnight and 2 in the morning. Because the docks were open all the time, and everybody who served the docks were open all the time. So we went across the railway lines into town, and we went to a Chinese restaurant. So we went upstairs, and there were tables all over a massive room, surrounded in places by some really beautiful women. And as soon as he came in and sat down, they all came over it to him and started kissing and cuddling him. And then they went back to their table. And there was a little bit of a fracas. One over a guy had hit a woman who was on the other side. So he walked over and beat him up, then came back to sit opposite me. So I said, "What's happening then?" He said, "The whores are on a break." It wasn't being unkind, it's just his English wasn't very good. He would sort anybody out who needed sorting out, but when he was drunk, he was helpless, like a baby. And that's the time then when he got attacked and beaten up, when he was drunk, because he literally couldn't do anything, couldn't defend himself.
Welcome to episode 17, The Bum. Andy tells us about a homeless fisherman that taught him a recipe he still cooks to this day, and we learn to never judge a book by its covers. We hope you enjoy this one.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you. Mike, I don't know if I told you this. This is Seagull. Seagull was a Dane, obviously, with a name like that. I used to see this bum leaned up against a wall outside a pub, regular, having not had a shower or anything, maybe pissed himself as well. And then I was sailed in on this new boat, and there he was, this guy,
On the boat?
one of the crew. So went to sea. As soon as he got out a bit, he went and got a good shave, got rid of all his stubble and all that. Took his bedding up on the deck and hung it over a spar to get air through it. Got a bar of soap, stripped off, jumped over the side and had a good scrub. And he taught me a lot about cooking fish, which is a skill that I hadn't still mastered. So whatever dish we had decided, he'd show me the best way to cook it. And he taught me how to make frikadelle, which is a Danish dish which you can make with meat. So basically, it's minced fish, butter, onion, egg, and flour, all mixed up together, and salt and pepper. So he did the mixing. We put the mincer on the table, clamped it on, minced the fish into a bowl. He was there, and then mixed it up, beat it up like a Christmas pudding.
Right.
Just beat until the arm was nearly falling off. Then you'd leave it for a couple of hours, or just before you started cooking. Then beat it up all over again. And you're getting spoon-sized, like dessert spoon-sized scoops of it, and put it in the frying pan. Only tiny little things. And they were the most delicious
Yummy.
things I'd ever tasted. Beautiful. And I make them today. Also, on another trip, we'd caught a load of dabs in the net, and they were considered rough fish and didn't get a very good price. So Seagull told me how to salt them.
Right.
So we've got a big bin, loads of salt, and first off you had to score down the side of the flatfish's fins, one side, through the skin, through the bone, but not through the skin on the other side. Both sides. And then you just open them up, the fins up I mean. Cut a notch in the tail and tie a bit of twine to it and to another one you've just done as well. So you put them then in a vat of, or big bin or whatever, of salt, You put the salt on your fish, then you put another layer of fish, and then salt, another layer, till it was full.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the next day, the salt had all melted and gone obviously into the fish. So we took them out then and hung them by the little strings all around the rigging.
Mm.
So it just looked like all these little pieces of paper flying about in the wind up in the rigging to dry off. And when they were kind of rubbery, we used to bring them down and put them in a Hessian sack and store them down the engine room. And then sometime later, maybe 6 months or so, you'd fancy having a breakfast of these. So where you'd split the fins off, you ripped the skin off both sides, so you've just got meat on bone.
Right.
And that was it. So you boil those in fresh water. Absolutely gorgeous, bit like bacon,
Really?
but having a fishy flavour. Another beautiful meal that he showed me how to cook. And I could do it now.
Why do you think he was a tramp then, if he was such a good chef and a knowledgeable
Because,
fat chap?
I don't know, he just got on the pop as soon as he hit shore. He was
Right.
drunk all the time.
Right.
But as soon as he got to sea, he cleaned himself up. It's the way he was. He did it every trip. You know, a day or two into our time ashore, I'd see him leaning up against the wall, drunk, having pissed himself. Normal for him.
Shame, really, isn't it?
But he was a nice guy at sea, very helpful and good teacher. That's it.
And the knowledge with that fish is quite intricate, the detailing of salting it, the way to prep it and cut it and dry it. You've got to be shown that, really, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were doing, say you were on any boat, you would prepare your place before frying. Sometimes you'd fillet it if it was a big one, big batch. So you'd have to know, I mean, filleting a flatfish is different from filleting a round fish. And I know all about doing various fish. But if you were taking the skin off to flour and cook like that, with just the meat on the bone, that would be a different process. But the same as what Seagull showed me. You know, you would score through the bone and then just skin it, pull the skin off both sides, and then you've just got a piece of meat on a bone. Easy.
Yeah. Yummy. And the little mince balls.
Yeah.
They sound, I'm not a big fish fan, but that fresh sounds lovely.
I know.
Yeah. Is that all the ones off the...
Well, there's
off the
5
list?
there. I haven't really thought any. It's just because these stories wouldn't leave me alone last night, and I couldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to sleep. They keep going on my mind. I knew if I wrote them down, then they'd leave me alone because I'd got them on paper.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 18, Fear. Andy talks of the many dangers at sea and his coping strategies for when you're looking death in the face. We hope you enjoy this one.
I don't know if I ever experienced real fear, because I always thought that the sea would never kill me. I had this thing. I've seen terror on people's faces, but never have I actually felt it. I felt close to it when I was driving my boat into the river sitting on top of a 15-foot wave.
What, surfing in?
Yeah, but sitting on the back of it, controlling the actual speed with the throttle. So I stayed on the back of it. Once you've gone over the front, your props in a mixture of water and air and had no bite.
Right.
If you slip back down the wave, the following wave would smash you up. So you sat on the back of it, like a little flea on the back of an elephant or whatever. Something like that.
Good analogy. Yeah. And that was
Even
that was
when
here coming. That was coming into Newport.
Yeah. Even when I was on the upturned boat, I accepted that I was going to die, and I wasn't afraid. I thought, I'm going to stay alive as long as I can, and eventually I'll probably go to sleep because I'll be exhausted and then I'll die. That's what you think. And really, I don't think anybody in a situation like that would be afraid, because you can't do anything about it.
I think people would be afraid.
Fear would be a lion running at you and you know you're not going to be able to outrun it. That would be fear. Or maybe a shark's open mouth coming at you. That would be probably cause fear, I would say.
The weight, just floating and waiting, that would get me, which is what you were doing, but you were on a boat.
Yeah.
Have you seen people go? Have you seen a man's eyes when he's gone overboard or anything like that?
I think I told you about that guy who got hit in the face with a block. Told you that, did I?
We spoke about it last night. Flattened his face.
Flattened his face. He died on that trip. We took him into Iceland and he was put ashore. In fact, the skipper...
So to go back to the start, so how did the block... What happened to the cable snapped or...
No. The block on an Icelandic trawler was a massive piece of steel on a hinge. And you had a hook. So you got the two warps out, but you couldn't haul the trawl along with them sticking wide apart like that, because it was impossible. So you slung a hook over the furthest one away, as the skipper tried to keep the boat to push in towards the port side, so going to the left, while you slug a rope on with a hook on it over the outside warp, pulled it through a sheave to the capstan and wound it in so it was tight to the other one. Then you'd put the block, which was hanging over the side, which was on a hinge, put the block up through a little thing that used to stick out the hole in it, put a pin through it, and then they could let go of the hook, and both warps were right alongside, being held by the block.
Yeah.
It's much more easy to manoeuvre the boat then because they weren't apart. So normally a tow was 3 hours, could be 4. That's the time you had to rest or eat or whatever. So when it came to knocking out the block, you used to pull a pin out very carefully, stand to one side of the block and give it a tap with a hammer. Used to fly back, slam against the side of the boat, and the warps used to spring apart.
Yeah.
On this particular occasion, this guy, I never knew his name, I think he knew he was dying, and he was very unpleasant to everybody. He must have weighed 30 or 40 stone, but if he fell down on the deck, take 3 or 4 men to pick him up. He couldn't stand up on his own. Anyway, and he was drunk all the time anyway. But what had happened years ago, and he was best mates with the skipper who was on the boat there. So he was the mate, and the skipper being in the wheelhouse. And that's the way it often was. You'd have your skipper, and the mate would be a mate of yours. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he must have stood in front of the block, and somebody put the pin in the wrong while it was on the wrong way round, and instead of flying back and hitting the side of the ship, it flew inwards and smashed him in the face. So all his bones were broken, and his face was flat. But they took him into hospital then, and did what they could. But because his glands had been affected in some way, everything he ate would put weight on him and he couldn't get rid of it. So he just got fatter and fatter and fatter. But he wanted to be at sea, and he knew he was dying. He didn't know what trip he'd die on, but he wanted to be at sea, because that's all he knew. And so he died on the boat.
After he'd been hit in the face?
No, he got hit in the face first. Then he spent like months ashore getting reconstructive surgery or whatever you'd call it. And then finding that he couldn't control his weight, because he'd probably normal before, slim or whatever, but he kept putting it on. Then after some time, he got better, but he was massive by then, So he went back on the boat that...
Was he badly disfigured?
Yeah.
His face, yeah.
Yeah, his face was flat.
Even after he'd been fixed?
Yeah, well, pretty much.
Mm.
I can't remember exactly. But it was obviously he'd been smashed in the face. Pretty obvious. Yeah, the 2 times I remember, like a shore talk incident with the skipper. He got taken ashore. But you go ashore and then all the quays were covered in Iceland with sections of blubber. This is normal on that sort of area, like whether it was Faroes or Iceland. You get blubber hanging up, or maybe dried fish or something that had been salted, like Seeger showed me how to do.
Yeah.
Salt it and hang it up. And nobody'd take it, no, but nobody looking after it. It was just there. And so when we took him in, that was a sight that, so you knew you were on the edge of the quay because all the blubber hanging up.
Yeah. And it was just a code. Nobody would steal anything. Nobody would steal.
I don't know. We never went. I was told that inside of Iceland was like any other country. It was green and hot because of the hot springs, which I now know is true.
Right.
The crew, and we were going past the growlers, which are small icebergs. Some of them were black because they'd melted and refrozen over hundreds of years and collected a bit of dirt as they were before. So, yeah, you wouldn't go too close to them because they'd open you up like a can opener, like Titanic or whatever. So, but we could see them, and the crew would say to me, keep an eye open for polar bears. And I thought they were kidding. But in retrospect, they weren't. But because they were winding you up all the time, didn't take any notice.
Mm.
But icebergs were massive, the size of an island.
Right.
You used to see them perhaps floating away in the distance on their own. And it was like a mountain floating on the sea.
Mm.
You could, probably about a mile long,
Right.
and hundreds of feet high. And they were called icebergs, whereas the growlers were, well, probably quite big, maybe the size of this house. But they were considered small compared to the icebergs.
I thought you were going to say a growler was the size of a car or smaller.
Well, they were.
Right.
They were. They were all sorts of sizes.
Mm.
But you wouldn't consider it to be an iceberg unless it was massive.
And have you ever hit an iceberg or a growler?
No. The hull was built, the hull itself, particularly the bows, was built to carve through sheet ice. And you'd look at sheet ice before you got there on a calm day, and it looked like land. It looked like it was a piece of land covered by ice, because it didn't move. It was solid.
Yeah.
And you'd see the ship and the warps cutting a swathe through it. And then behind you, it was all broken up.
Right.
Yeah, we used to do that.
And do you not get yourself stuck sometimes?
I don't remember being
going
stuck.
too deep. Right.
There were no weather ships off the North Cape of Iceland where we were fishing quite a lot. So you didn't know what weather you were going into. If there was any other ships up there, they would report in, or sometimes they'd say storm force 10 or whatever, so you know either stay away from the area or go in anyway.
But the information was only from other ships?
That's it. There were no lighthouse ships, light ships they're called, back then, in the area. It was just too far north.
Right. Different world to today, when you can get a 7-day forecast and...
Oh yeah.
Right.
There's
So you just have to take your chances, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to cross the Atlantic or the Pacific, which people did back then, you took your chance, because nobody, there's nobody out that far, I'm assuming, anyway. But nowadays, there are weather forecasters who will give you a forecast, from what I understand these days, but you've got to pay for the service. you can look at their charts and the way that the wind shifts according to their, what do you call it, prognosis or whatever. So if you're around the World Sailor, for instance, you might get about 3 different companies who produce these prognoses, and you match them all together and see which one's more likely, and then with that information in mind, you go where you want to go.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the series, and a special thank you to Andy for sharing his stories. Goodbye for now.